In this video, we're on page 64, number B, which is all about translating points on a graph. In this case, translating points means specifying a new location for them. We graph points on the Cartesian coordinate plane. The Cartesian coordinate plane is two-dimensional. It has an x-axis and it has a y-axis. By convention, we write the points that we are going to plot in parentheses with the x coordinate first and the y coordinate second. This is the most important thing to remember when you're translating points. There are two ways to translate xy, and the mnemonic is contained in the convention. You can translate xy along the x-axis and along the y-axis. The important thing to remember is the translations along the x-axis are only affect the x-coordinate, whereas translations along the y-axis only affect the y-coordinate. Here you see point 1, 2 plotted. To plot that point, I went over 1 on the x-axis, and then I went up 2 on the y-axis. Now in black, I'm going to do what number 1 says, translate point 1, 2, 3 units right on the x-axis. So I'm going to start with the point 1, 2, and I'm just going to take it 1, 2, 3 points on the x-axis, and it's going to end up here. What is its new location? Its new location on the x-axis is 1, 2, 3 is 4, but its location on the y-axis hasn't changed. So the new position is 4, 2. Notice that the translation was only on the x-axis and only the x-coordinate was affected. Now our second problem is to translate our original point 1, 2 down, 2 units down on the y-axis. And so I'm going to do that in blue. And so we start with the point 1, 2, and we just go down 1, 2 on the y-axis, and we end up there. What is the new position? It's easy to see that the x-coordinate is now 1. It hasn't changed. And the y-coordinate is now 0. So in this problem, we were translating down the y-axis, so only the y coefficient, the y-coordinate, was affected. So remember, apply the translation along the x-axis to the x-coordinate and apply the translation along the y-axis to the y-coordinate. Also note that the axes are number lines. So right on the x-axis is positive, left is negative, and up on the y-axis is positive, down is negative. Here's a way to think about how to do a translation. Number 1, along the x-axis, hold a ruler parallel to the x-axis. I'm trying to draw with an eraser. And move the point either right or left. So that point is either going to go right or left according to what the problem is. Along the y-axis, number 2, along the y-axis, hold a ruler parallel to the y-axis and move the point either up or down. Of course, we can translate the point along both axes. For example, if the problem was to move the point 4 minus 1, 3 units left on the x-axis and 2 units up on the right, 2 units up on the y-axis. The first thing I want to do is locate the point. 4, 1. I would go over on x, 1, no, it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would go down 1 on y. So there's our point, 4 minus 1. And now the problem says to move the point 3 units left on the x-axis. So we are not changing y, we're just going 1, 2, 3. So that would be an interim place. and then we're going to go 2 units up, so that would be 1 unit up will put us right on the x-axis, and 1 unit up will put us there. So our final position here would be the point 1, 1. Now we can also check ourselves with algebra. Since we apply the change in the x-axis only to the x-coordinate, the change in the x-axis was 3 units left on the x-axis, and so all we need to do is subtract 3 from 4 to get the answer 1. And the change in the y-axis was 2 units up on the y-axis, and so I can't get this to cooperate with me. And so what we need to do for that is add 2 to minus 1, which is going to give you, of course, 1. And there is, in fact, the point that we ended up plotting. We found out that the answer was the point 1, 1. Everything that I've done is on page 64, and the pinkish box on page 64 says that in general, if you are translating point xy, p units along the x-axis, and q units along the y-axis, the new position will be x plus p, y plus q, where remember that p and q could be negative, which would really make it x minus p and x minus q, but the general equation for the new position is x plus p, y plus q. You just have to remember that when they're negative, you're basically adding a negative number, which is the same as subtracting. And now I encourage you to do the practice at the bottom of the page so that you can become familiar with translating points. Because what they're getting at is we're going to be moving parabolas all over the Cartesian coordinate plane. See you in the next video.